children's self-esteem or focusing on disciplining them. So I thought that this topic is actually very important because self-esteem and discipline, I can easily say, is all about human behavior. مستقبل الإنسان كله. The future of any human being will be defined according to the parents' way of dealing with these two aspects of development. Sure.
My beloved, if you have a Sienna beige or a Kia black, please move your car because it's blocking the way. Beige Sienna or a black Kia.
That's why I need your listening, please. And please try to, if you have any paper or pens, just you can write or take notes for yourselves, because what we are going to say is not just merely like psychology or social sciences or anything like that. It's much more than that. It's education, it's practical life, it's applying the principles of education to your most beloved children, daughters and sons. And sometimes one single mistake may lead to lifelong suffering of your child. So it's very important to pay attention today. What's self-esteem? And what's discipline? What's self-esteem? Let us start with a verse or few verses from the first epistle of St. Paul to the Thessalonians, chapter 5 through 12, chapter 5, 12 through 14. And we urge you, brethren, to recognize those who labor among you and are over you in the Lord and admonish you, and to esteem them. The word esteem here means more like respect, Esteem them very highly in love for their work's sake. Be at peace among yourselves. Then he follows and says that, now we exhort you, brethren, warn those who are unruly. That's discipline. Comfort the faint-hearted. That's esteem. Faint-hearted in some other translations would mean the low-esteemed, those with low self-esteem. In Arabic, صغار النفوس، بالعربي ترجمتها شجعوا صغار النفوس. Comfort the faint-hearted, uphold the weak, be patient with all. So, what's self-esteem? Self-esteem is about the person's emotional evaluation of his or her own worth. If I ask you, I can ask myself, when I look into the mirror, لما أشوف نفسي في المراية, what should I see? So I see three main things. my worth, and number two, my judgment of myself, and number three, my attitude toward myself. What is the difference? It's more or less the same. Have you ever heard about somebody who hates himself? Don't you say it sometimes? I hate myself. I don't like myself. Okay. What's this coming from? When we say I hate myself, I don't like myself, I have no respect for myself. I don't value myself. Does this affect us? Of course. Would this affect our children? Absolutely. If you have a child who views himself or herself in a negative way, looks into the mirror and, sorry to say, hates to see himself or herself in the mirror. Does it happen all the time? Have you ever heard one of your children telling you, I am ugly, I am bad, I hate myself, I can't tolerate myself, I can't respect myself? Absolutely. I am a bad boy or a bad girl, I'm judging myself because I'm going to hell. I'll go to hell. And my attitude towards myself, I have no trust in myself, no confidence in myself. I am a failure. When you hear that from your child at age 14 or 15 or 16, plus minus, what does this mean? This means that your child is always seeing himself or herself in negative light. You may tell him, or somebody else would tell your girl, your daughter, your son, you are a good boy, you are beautiful, but when he or she looks into the mirror, he would see a very negative self-image. That's disastrous. So, the third point here, it's the person's attitude towards self is more clarified into these 3 points. I am competent, I am worthy, I can be functional. Again, I am competent. Do you know what's meant by competent or competence? Means I am in control. I am in control. I am worthy. I have self-worth. I have value, self-value. I'm not cheap. In other words, I'm precious. And I can be functional. I can do my job. And by the way, those people who can afford to say these 3 statements, I'm competent, I'm worthy, I can be functional, once they know God, they are saints. They can be real saints. Because with all of that, they can measure themselves to God and they see their humbleness. and their sins and their weaknesses, and these are the real spiritual and healthy religious people. We don't see that many of such people anymore, unfortunately. And I can tell you why later. So this is self-esteem. بالعربي قيمة نفسي في عينين نفسي، شكلي في المراية. لما ببص في المراية بشوف ايه؟ بحب نفسي ولا لا؟ بحترم نفسي ولا لا؟ حاسس ان انا اقدر امشي في الدنيا وامشي حالي كويس؟ عندي ثقة في نفسي ولا لا؟ لما اشوف نفسي وبحكم على نفسي بشوف نفسي كويس ولا وحش؟ ليه الكلام ده مهم؟ Why is this important, my dear brothers and sisters? Why? Very simple. Just one example, and that's from my own experience or practice. Have you ever heard about addiction? Of course, الناس المدمنين مش كده؟ لو دخلتوا كده في حتة ناس قاعدين فيها وبيشربوا حشيش مثلا، smoking pot or weed or أي حاجة, or drinking alcohol, I think. Alcoholics, I mean. If you ask them, how would you describe yourself? They don't call themselves addicts, by the way. عارفين الادكتس بيسموا نفسهم ايه؟ حد يعرف؟ How do they call themselves? Huh? Junkie. They tell you we are the junkie, the trash of the society. Yeah. Junkie. هم junk. وده اللي بيحصل لأولادنا وبناتنا. That's exactly what happens to our children when we don't help them grow with healthy self-esteem. دي المشكلة الكبيرة اللي عايزين نحلها النهاردة. شوفوا احنا بقى how do we hurt our children's self-esteem. في حاجتين would hurt our children's self-esteem. Number one is called child neglect. Number two is called child abuse. We hear all the time about child abuse, but I need to focus a little bit more about child neglect today. Child neglect is just basically, it's the failure to provide our child with his or her need for the following. Two things. Love. What is the second? Any guessing here? What is the second most important thing that we need to provide our child with? Huh? His parents? Respect. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, we will include respect under love, okay? Because respect is part. If you love me, you respect me. But the most important, the second thing is child protection. We are living in a dangerous world. When you neglect or ignore your child's needs, you expose your child to danger. Am I right or wrong? Common sense. So, love. Let's start with love. What's love? We have, first thing, it's called nurturing. Nurturing. بنغذي الطفل. Nurture. Food. Love is kind of food that we give to our child. When we hug the child, when we huddle the child, that's the job, the main job of a mother. ماما دي لما بتشيل البيبي وتحضنه وتبوسه وتغير له وتعمل كل الحاجات دي. What is the message that the mother is giving to her baby after birth, especially first year and 2 and 3? It's a very important message because the mother here represents the entire world for the child. When she is nurturing the child with love, you know what? She is telling her child, welcome to the world. The world is welcoming you. That's why unfortunate babies who are born and then they lose their moms immediately. And there is no one like a mom. They suffer. You know what they suffer from? They suffer of something called paranoia. The world is insecure for them. They don't trust the world. God bless our mothers. Keep them. Take care of them so they can take care of their young babies. Nurturing. Number 2 is bonding. Bonding. The child starts to develop some sort of strong relationship with parents, with mom and dad. And this bond will grow and then will go to one parent or the other. If the child is a boy, he needs to bond more with his mom. If the child is a girl, she will need to bond more with her dad. And failure of bonding means that these poor children will suffer later on somewhere or another. You know from what? Mainly from after they get married. A girl who didn't find a father around to bond with, or the father was not doing his job to bond with his daughter, this daughter will suffer once she gets married. The same with the boy and the mother. So bonding is very important. And the number 3 is very important, a sense of security. Security means what? Means safety for the child. When the child grows in a home where dad and mom fighting, arguing, doing bad things to each other, screaming, it's insecure for the baby. And such an environment of insecurity, especially if there are major differences between dad and mom, that would lead them to separation and divorce. That's how children belonging to broken families are very vulnerable to all the sociopathic attitudes and behaviors. Starting addiction, anything that would take them away from the right way. Besides, of course, I'm not going through the depth of that. Lack of security would precipitate also an anxiety, and lack of nurturing and bonding would precipitate depression, all that stuff may have started very early in life, in the child's life. Number 4 with love is something called approval. Approval. What's approval? It's about 3 other things. Okay? Put them all. The first one is about appreciating the child. The gentleman at the back mentioned the word respecting. Yes. Valuing, encouraging, unconditional acceptance, unconditional forgiveness. Don't you think that these are the many sides and aspects of the word love? Because love shines everywhere. When you appreciate your child, value your child, encourage your child, oh my God. That's why we need to learn how to praise your child, how to compliment your child, how to use those 101 words of praise. Have you ever read those? Please, when you go home, this is your homework today. Just Google 101 words of praise to praise your child. And you can use these words of praise also with your spouse, your wife or your husband. Very, very important things to do on a daily basis. Your children just grow in a very healthy way. They thrive. They just enjoy feeling that they are significant in your eyes as a parent. When you value them, when you encourage them, when you give them this sense of acceptance unconditionally, when you forgive them, because no one is perfect, even if his or her own life is one day on earth. What's protection? Protection is protection against anything that would offend your child. Please remember, one of the most important passages and chapters in the Bible is Matthew 18. Read what the Lord has said in Matthew 18. Then Jesus called a little child to him, set him in the midst of them and said, "Assuredly I say to you," he's talking to his disciples, "unless you are converted and become as little children, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven." Then he said that whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, بيعثر الطفل العثرة, offense, it would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were drowned in the depths of the sea. Oh my God, our Lord Jesus never said such harsh words anywhere else. بس عمره ما قال حاجة زي كده. كلام صعب قوي. اللي يعسر حد من العيال الصغيرين دول أحسن له يحطوا في رقبته حجر الرحى. عارفين حجر الرحى؟ الميلستون. The millstone is a very heavy stone that's used in grinding the seeds. Yeah, the wheat. يطحن الغلة. علقوا في رقبته الحجر ويسيبوه يغرق. ايه ده؟ You know why? Because our children are very vulnerable. When they are young, they have a small brain, still a very, immature brain, a juvenile brain. Anything can play with their minds very easily. So, we need to stand and protect our children against any abuse and any offense. Okay. There are kinds of abuse. First, call it the emotional and verbal abuse. As part of your love to your child, to protect your child against that. You shall not abuse your child. This is one of the commandments. You shall never abuse your child. Emotionally. You know what's meant by emotionally? Emotional abuse, what's meant by that? Threatening. What else? Demeaning, humiliating, ignoring, boycotting, stonewalling. Don't talk to your child at all. Don't listen to your child at all. Calling names, etc., etc. That's emotional and verbal abuse. And you never give yourself excuses to abuse your child, because I hear that very, very often. A parent would come and say, my child just drove me crazy and I lost it. No excuse. Wrong. You are offending your child that way. You have to protect your child against bullying. And bullying is something that's going on every day in schools today. We hear every now and then about a child or a teenager who hurt himself or herself or even commits suicide because of that. Our children are very vulnerable to bullying. Our children can lose their temper and do very stupid things and hurt others at a time when they feel like they are being bullied, abused. What about physical abuse? Same thing. Physical abuse even is more dangerous. Verbal emotional abuse can leave scars, but not as much as physical abuse. Because physical abuse would induce both kinds of pain, emotional pain and physical pain. And the fourth one, maybe the worst, one of the worst, sexual abuse. I tell you, my dear brothers and sisters, when we deal with any real problem at adolescence or after adolescence, adulthood, young adulthood, many or most of these problems carry some sort of scars because of exposure to one or the other ways of abuse. Okay, I think now you are eager to hear about discipline. Before we start talking about discipline, let me put few words from the Bible here. From Hebrews, Hebrews chapter 12, 5, 6. My son, do not despise the chastening of the Lord. Chastening means it's the same word. Discipline, chasten, or chastise. These are synonyms, same word. تأديب بالعربي. My son, do not despise the chastening of the Lord, nor be discouraged when you are rebuked by him. For whom the Lord loves, he chastens. He scourges every son whom he receives. And then, if you endure chastening, God deals with you as with sons. الذي يحب الرب يؤدبه. For what son is there whom a father does not chasten? But if you are without chastening, of which all have become partakers, then you are illegitimate and not sons. Furthermore, we have had human fathers who corrected us, and we paid them respect. Shall we not much more readily be in subjection to the Father of spirits and live? And then the last part here is, for they indeed for a few days chastened us, as seemed best to them. But he, for our profit, that we may be partakers of his holiness. Now no chastening seems to be joyful for the present. محدش بيحب التأديب. التأديب فيه نوع من المعاناة والsuffering. Nobody likes chastening for the time. Now, painful. Nevertheless, afterward it yields the peaceable fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. The Bible is asking us to accept discipline, chastening, chastisement. That's good. Good for our children. You know why? You know why? What does discipline do that to the child? Discipline actually is about building up a structure to one's personality. Structure. You know, all engineers here, Abuna is one of them, they know when they build up, say a car, for example, what is the major part of the car's structure is called what? Frame. The frame of the car that carries the car. For a human being, we have bones. So discipline is about building up a structure or a frame or a skeleton for the human person. Let me write it here. So, can we function without a structure? No. Without a skeleton? Of course not. Can you ride a car and drive a car without a frame? No. It will fall apart. يعني الجسم اللي من غير عظم ده ما يعرفش يمشي، ما يعرفش يتحرك، ما يعرفش. discipline ده هو بالظبط زي العظم. Okay, but look, listen here. What is the more important part of discipline here? It's called morality. Moral values. Moral values. Behavioral values. Without discipline, morality is destroyed, is gone. And then the last thing here is about boundaries. To establish boundaries. So your child besides love, needs discipline to develop morality and spirituality. I call it spiritual morality because moral development is different, little different. Here in our congregation with the children of God, our morality is spiritually oriented. Because, there are levels of morality in the world, but we have a higher standard of morality with a Christian life. And then boundaries. Boundaries are very important for healthy relationships. So, if we can say, how do we feel sometimes as parents in helping our children to develop both self-esteem and discipline or structure in their lives? ايه اللي بيحصل لنا يا جماعه؟ الكلام ده هنا بقى الحته المهمه قوي اللي هتخليكم تكتبوا اسئله دلوقتي. You're going to start to ask. Failures. الفشل، الحاجات الغلط اللي بنعملها. Major areas. Number 1. We fail to encourage or compliment or praise our child. ما بنقولش كلام كويس لأولادنا وبناتنا. نمرة 2. To strike a balance between love and discipline. هنا بقى الصعوبة. ازاي نأدبهم بس في نفس الوقت نحبهم؟ How can we give them love? The problem is not in offering them love. The problem is what's meant by love, because discipline actually is part of the love game. If you love your child, like what we just read, الذي يحبه الرب يؤدبه. لو احنا بنحب اولادنا, if we love our children, we need to discipline them rather than misunderstanding love like spoiling them. No way. When we spoil our children, we are ruining their lives. You know why? We are making life for them unrealistically easy. ده مشكلة العيال المدلعين. We are offering them the unrealistic world or life. كل حاجة سهلة جدا. Everything is so easy, so available, so cheap, no effort. So I don't need to do anything to get what I need. I have the car, I have the money, I have, everything is available. Why should I study? Why should I go to work? Why should I pray for anything? مش محتاج. طب ونكبر بعد كده بقى. These children will grow and they have something on their mind. You know what? They all believe, all of them, they believe that the entire world is theirs. الدنيا دي بتاعتهم. Then they start to get shocked. Once a police officer would stop them with a violation, traffic violation. Oh my God. Second time, they see a judge. Third time, they go to jail. What happened? At age 16 and 17 and 18 is all about what we did at age 2 and 3 and 5 and 6 and 7. It's all related. You love them like God, but you need to disciple them, to chasten them, to chastise them. And by the way, Have you noticed that I didn't use special word؟ محدش قال لي انت في word ما قلتهاش في النص. سامعين كلمة ايه؟ عارفين ايه الورد؟ حد جس؟ حد خد باله؟ I never use the word punish. خدتوا بالكم؟ Because I don't like it. Punish. Even the Bible doesn't say punish. At least in the New Testament. Chasten, disciple, discipline, chastise, rebuke, tell off. They are all synonyms of the same word. Discipline. Not punish. You know why punish is not? Because punishment means it's actually a world used word. دي الكلمة اللي بيستعملوها في العالم. You break the law, you get punished. That's okay. But we don't use it in our Christian vocabulary. You know why? Because God does not punish. And remember, when you deal with your children, when they are very young, when your children are just newly born, first and second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth years of their life, they see God at home. And they are called God the Father and Mother. One God, not two gods. And if you use the word punish, it means that God is going to punish them. This can be very detrimental to their spiritual growing. We'll see why. Balance between love and discipline. Number 3, avoid perpetuation of guilt and shame. Our children, when they are young, first 3, 4, 5 years of their life, they are very sensitive to two feelings: shaming and guilt. When you tell them shame on you, what's the word shame means? Shame means what? Shame means exposure. Everybody would see me naked, exposed. We don't like that. We don't accept that. Because this is very humiliating. And that's exactly what Adam and Eve did in the paradise. They tried to cover their nakedness. But they needed God for that. Guilt and shame, if they stay longer with your child, or if they become pathological, they will lead your child to low self-esteem and negative self-image, and we will go back to self-hatred and self-disrespect, etc., etc. But with shame you cover, because God, we thank you, Lord, because you have covered us. The first prayer that Abuna prays in every liturgy, thanksgiving. You have covered us. First word, covered us, covered our nakedness and shame. And guilt, if it stays too long, it leads to hopelessness and loss of hope and despair. الناس بتيأس عشان حاسين الخطية بتاعتهم كبيرة قوي ما بتتغفرش، أو الخطية بتتكرر. Repeated mistakes, repeated sins always need forgiveness, first through parents and then through God when they go into confession and repentance. Number 4, avoid fixation of negative past. Fixation means what? Give you an example. Your child lied, for example. Okay? كذب. أو stole something, سرق حاجة. You have one or the other options. You want to discipline your child? Say, no way, you are a liar, you don't lie, God is going to punish you. What happens to the child now? My daddy and my mommy called me liar, called me thief. So now I have a title, laqab. My name is X or Y, the liar. My name is X or Y, the thief. Unfortunately, my dear brothers and sisters, all these titles that we give to our children will be fixated here. They would never forget them. And I challenge any one of you, when you go back with your memory, when you were young, and you remember one day or the other, your dad or mom called you something. فاشل. مش فالح. مفيش فايدة فيكي. ما عمرك ما بتتعلمي. These are titles. No way. It's not. Instead of saying to each other, you are blessed, انت مبارك ومبروك, انت ابن ربنا وبنت ربنا, God loves you. So how can we deal with such a situation when I find out that my child lied to me or took something that doesn't belong to him or her? What about disciplining your child like that? Habibi, I love you so much. You are wonderful. I am so proud of you. I know that you didn't say the right thing. You didn't say the right thing because you were so worried and afraid that I would be mad at you or hurt you or anything, right? Yes. But I'm proud of you because you're a good boy. Habibti, my beloved girl, I know when you took that thing that didn't belong, you didn't take it just for yourself. You just wanted just to, or you were feeling like you need something and you were worried to ask me. Because you are a good girl. And I'm sure that you won't do that anymore because you're a good girl. Give me a hug. I love you. Never use the word liar or thief or anything like that. And you discipline your child just in a constructive way. You're building. Be assured your child is not going to do that anymore. Especially if you repeat the same pattern with your child. No fixation. But another example. At one point you saw your child aged 2 or 3 or 4 touching himself or herself, masturbating, something sexual, but it's not sexual. And you are so much worried that this habit will contribute to bad stuff and what he's going to do or she's going to do when they become 15 and 16 and so your worries and anxiety would make you very anxious and very impulsive and rushy. Scream in your child's face, stop it, don't do that again. This is haram, this is forbidden, this is dirt, this is. مصيبة هنا حصلت. You know why? Because fixation will happen. What you meant to help your child stop, he or she is going to keep doing, try to do it behind your back, and it will be fixated and may lose control over that, because the way you handle the stuff with the child created some sort of an anxiety or curiosity. Why would dad and mom do something like that to me when I don't feel or see anything wrong with that? This is my body. They are talking to me about something that I would never understand. So this such curiosity or anxiety will take them to stay with that same habit, whether it's masturbating or lying or stealing or bedwetting، يعملوا على روحهم بالليل، أي حاجة من الحاجات دي. When we discipline our children in the wrong way, we can lose them easily. Then number 5, when you fail to apologize to your child for your mistakes. هل انتم مستعدين يا جماعة تقولوا لعيالكم we are sorry احنا عملنا حاجات غلط؟ Are you ready to apologize to your child one time، تقول له أنا كنت غلطان يوم ما ضربتك، I was wrong when I مديت إيدي عليكي، hit you. I remember one father used to real abuse his daughter for years. And when she turned 18, she said, I'm now 18, I'm an adult, I'm not going to stay with my dad at home. So she went to Abuna, fortunately, and told him, Abuna, I want to leave. I can't stay with dad and mom anymore. Abuna راح جاب الراجل ده قال له, please come, I need to talk to you. You did this and that to your daughter for years, and you have never apologized to her for anything. You know, the father said, what? Abuna, what do you mean? You mean that I am the father and apologize to my child? Shame. That's real ignorance. Sorry. We think of ourselves, parents are perfect. We are gods. We don't do mistakes. And this makes it harder on our children. When you go and say to your child, I am sorry. I had no excuse to do that to you. I want you to forgive me. I'm asking you to forgive me. Humble yourself. Then your children will benefit because they see in you real human being, loving and caring, even if not perfect. Number 6, to demonstrate role models. You can't preach something that you don't do. If you do something wrong, never try to preach it. It's not going to work. Your children will know. And most likely they already know. Try with yourself first. And the last one is please present the real love of God. Present the real love of God. That's God's love. God's forgiveness. Unconditional love, unconditional forgiveness. Unconditional acceptance. Thank you so much for your attention. And these are my contact information. Okay, thank you. Questions, Abuna is getting the wireless phone so you can ask questions. If you wrote any questions, I'm ready to read them. حاضر هجيب لأبونا الميكروفون بس عشان نسمع حضرتك.
Thank you very much for this fantastic speech about that. subject, very important subject. But I want, what do you think about this proverb that says in Arabic, يا لك من مربي قال من عند ربي. يا لك من مربي قال من عند ربي.
ده فين
في مثل في العرب بالعربي بيقولوه.
ده مثل.
مثل proverb.
Yeah.
يا لك من مربي قال من عند ربي. What do you think about that?
And I can't understand it. حضرتك تشرح لي. لو في سفر الأمثال معلش. لا هو حضرتك بتقول على يعني one of the proverbs actually mispronounced اللي هو أدب ابنك بقضيب من الحديد. ما فيش آية في الكتير بتقول discipline your child with a rod of iron. ما فيش. This is not human, this is not godly, this is not divine. قضيب من الحديد يعني نضربه على راسه ونموته. في ناس فاهمة كده فاهمين ان الضرب ده حاجة كويسة ودي حاجة طبعا خطيرة جدا. وشوف احنا في المجتمع the society where we live in any kind of violence would lead to very serious consequences. فاحنا نفسنا نوعي لان احنا اتضربنا واحنا صغيرين جايز اهالينا جايز ضربونا فاحنا فاهمين ان احنا عشان اتضربنا طلعنا كويسين. ما هو زمان كانوا دايما بسمع كده يقول لك يا ابني انا دي الطريقه اتربيت بيها عشان كده طلعت فالح ونافع. بس مين قال يعني سوري احنا فينا اخطاء كتيره. Thank you for your comment. اشكرك. اتفضلي حضرتك في ثانيه واحده عشان اسمع حضرتك.
How can a working mother bond with her kids?
الميكروفون مش شغال.
How can a working mother bond with her kids?
How can علي صوتك شوية.
A working mother bond with her kids.
السؤال سمعته. A working mother. Okay.
My second question. What is the difference between self-esteem and pride?
Very good. Let us answer the first question. How a working mother would supervise and follow her kids? Well, there are priorities in life. Kids come first. Marriage come first. Okay. If my work, I'm assuming, if my work is preventing me of taking care of my kids, I should rather change my work or even quit my work. How can you do that? This is up to you. Thank you. This is up to you. This is the way, this is the challenges of daily life. How can I compromise? How can I do this and not neglect that, for example? But, of course, I mean, some people, some working parents hire somebody or have their mothers, grandmothers take care of that. I mean, there are some ways, but without getting into the details, we need to set the priority because your kids need you, and what you are going to do now, that's how you are going to reap later on in life. اللي احنا بنزرعه دلوقتي هو اللي هنحصده لما العيال يكبروا. السؤال الثاني قلتي حضرتك ايه فكريني؟ Self-esteem and self-pride, yes. Self-esteem is healthy. Self-pride is unhealthy and pathological. Self-pride means our ego is inflated. Our ego, myself, the self is called the ego, is being inflated, oversized, falsely inflated. And low self-esteem, my esteem or myself is deflated, is undersized. Both ways, self-pride and low self-esteem are two negative images of esteem. Healthy self-esteem means that I am confident, but I'm not overconfident. I have respect to myself, so I would never throw myself into trash and doing stupid things like drugs and alcohol and addictive behaviors, because I am very precious. I respect myself. I have self-confidence that I can do whatever is assigned to me to do. I see life from a positive perspective, like life is promising, because God is there, and I can function, and I can do my job, and I can invest with all my talents, the talents that God has granted me to do and to use. These are healthy aspects of self-esteem. But self-pride means that I am better than, I compare. And sometimes the self-pride actually hides low self-esteem, but we try to compensate for that by inflating our ego. That's wrong. That's why proud people, over-proud people, who are not proud of God but proud of themselves, they end up with disasters, with problems, conflicts in life. Right? Okay, something in writing here. How to deal with severe fear. 10-year-old can't sleep, sit, or function. Okay. Well, there is some issue here. When a 10-year-old cannot sit or sleep or function, there is something that needs to be examined and tested for, whether it's an anxiety disorder or anything else. So this child needs to see a specialist. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, معك الميكروفون. تفضل. Yeah.
You mentioned about spoiling your kids. How can I draw a line between spoiling my kids or bringing to them the necessity, especially if my kids are teenagers and they see other kids in their school have iPod, cell phone, their special laptops and so on. Bring this stuff to my kids. Am I spoiling them, or I'm bringing to them the necessity so we don't feel that they are less than the other kids?
Excellent, thank you. You mentioned in your question spoiling or giving them their needs. When it's about the needs, you give them the needs. It's not spoiling, But still, sometimes, especially when you talk about teenagers and stuff like that, you always put in mind that a child, one of the healthy attitudes that you want to teach your child is called appreciation of what they get. Like they know that money is not found on trees. بيلاقي الفلوس على الشجرة. That they need just to see that daddy and mommy, or both of them, just they labored, تعبوا to bring this stuff. أو إن الstuff اللي هم بياخدوه, some people don't have it. بالك. Sometimes it's good for you to tell your children, yes, I'm going to buy you things, but wait. The word waiting here is important because it adds to the morality, that the development of moral values, which is self-control. Self-control. If you give them everything easily, you are spoiling them. And this is one value why we encourage our homes and families to fast. When it comes to fasting, little kids will grow and watch the dad and mom, after the Lent had started already, they don't eat eggs and cheese, but they eat ful و طعمية. So they ask their parents, why don't you eat eggs like us? I say, because we are fasting. And then they say, okay, we need to fast like you, because children love to imitate their parents. No, that's fine. We can fast, but not all the fast, but just part of it. And that's how they acquire the blessing of fasting, through imitation and role modeling and exempling. Okay? Fasting here is helpful to teach our children discipline, because they need to see that we can delay our gratification. That's a very extremely important principle in education and child raising. Delaying of gratification. That there is some time that we don't eat, or we don't eat specific food, and delay the gratification until Eid, okay, till we celebrate. So it means for them that there are some times when they grow and they start to become sexually, mature, they don't go and sleep around. They say, no, we can hold it until we get married. We can practice self-control. I'm going to keep my virginity and my purity until I get married. So it's very important sometimes I'm going to buy you a laptop, but a month from now, or 2 months from now, or when on your birthday, it's coming birthday, it's just good to not immediate response, okay? Yes.
You mentioned something
علي
about
صوتك شوي عشان الصوت.
you mentioned something about how we should react to our kids' mistakes with love.
How can we act?
React. To their mistakes with love instead of attacking them, etc. I do want to discuss this a bit further. Sometimes our kids are not the same. Each kid has a different personality. Does this method work the same way with every kid? Sometimes you can be so loving, but the kid can abuse this. Do we continue to do the same and to apply the same method? And can it hold any failure in the future? Like, we can continue to apply this, but maybe the kid will take it for granted and continue to do the wrong thing. So I'm questioning this method, although I do agree and I am convinced. بس
أبونا ممكن أتسكت عشان الصوت بغلف شوي عندي أنا.
In reacting to when our kids do mistakes.
يعني مش بالضرورة إنه كل طفل يتعامل
نفس الحكاية. Yeah. Yes. What we mention here, ma'am, is about general rules, but there may be some exceptions. Though I am very conservative about allowing exceptions to happen, because when we say exceptions, it means sometimes that the exception would become the rule after that. So, thank you. So it's good to try the way I mentioned first. because it proved to be working very well and much better and less risky than the confrontational way, especially when you are dealing with children up to age 12 and 13, you know. They take advantage of that if they feel like the tone of your voice is not firm. When I can tell my child, I know that what you mentioned, what you did, for example, like stealing something. I don't use the word stealing. You took something that doesn't belong to you. And that was wrong. You know that was wrong. You know why? Because it's not yours. But I know you are a good boy. The point here is you raise the issue of the negative behavior, but with emphasizing the positive thing with the child, because you don't want the child to perceive himself or herself as a bad boy or a bad girl. So you mentioned that with something positive. But if you keep, focusing on the wrong behavior, this means that the child may develop something negative of himself or herself. If you repeat, well, the second time, if that's repeated, then you see sometimes the repeated behavior is hiding something deeper than the act itself, like anger, like jealousy. In many cases, the one who steals, for example, or lies is the older child, and he's jealous of the second. And by the way, God willing, next year, inshallah, Buna, we will need to talk about the issue of jealousy to parents. It's very important, because that's how jealous children behave in general, in a negative way, to withdraw attention or to show their anger because they feel like their dad or mom, they love their siblings more than they love them. It happens with the older child, it happens also with the middle child. So you have to seek what's behind the problem, if it's a pattern, before it turns to become a behavior. Yeah. Some written questions. What does a person do when the wife and husband are not on the same page, so that is disciplining their own? That's a major issue. When dad and mom are not on the same page or the same line in disciplining their kids, the woman is deeply positive, is always positive, but the man is always negative. Well, before you open your master bedroom in the morning, you need to sit and talk and agree how to deal with your kids. Raising kids needs two parents. It doesn't work with one parent, please. And children can take advantage of that when they see that dad and mom are not on the same line. So please, there is no other solution except to find a solution to agree about how to treat your children. Otherwise, problems will start and develop and grow. I am confused how to discipline without punishment. There should be like consequences for wrongdoing, taking away privilege. That's what we say. If you mean by discipline means that you can just only punish them by saying no television, no going to movie today, no something like that. If you want to do that, that's fine. To discipline your children by teaching them there are consequences of their behaviors, that's okay. But please, please, try this thing. When you tell them, you shall need to finish your homework, otherwise there will be some consequences, not punishment, some discipline. Don't use the word punishment. And the discipline can be one of the three things: either no TV, no going out, or no anything, seeing your friends, for example. Let the child select or participate in selecting their discipline, because this is helpful to them educationally. They think of what they did wrong after that. Say the child would say, okay, no TV. So we will turn off the TV for 2 hours or 3 hours. No TV. During these 2 or 3 hours, the child will remember that he contributed to that. And the child will learn that he's not going to do that again. So it's a learning experience, that's fine. Anything that would include a learning experience, that's fine. And I also encourage parents, instead of applying rigid consequences or discipline like 3 hours, make them after 2 hours, it's okay. You have been doing well for 2 hours, I'm going to turn on the TV again. What are you delivering here is a message of forgiveness and mercy. The 3 hours is about discipline, like to call it punishment, but with that there are also mercy and forgiveness. So that's okay, no problem. Any way to this, I didn't go in details with the ways to discipline your child, but it's up to you. But this is all about broad lines. Disciplining your child, that's fine, but without any negative impact on the psyche, on the mind, that would leave scar. نعم. خلاص, last question. How are we going to protect our girls from bullying at school or at church? What action can be? You mean bullying, right? Yeah. Bullying at school. Please, please, this is a parent's job to protect her daughters and her sons away from bullying. If this needs you to go to school and talk to the principal, the teacher, the counselor, if you need to file charges, you do that. You show your child that you protect them, period. Children need to see their parents are strong and protecting them when they are helpless and they are young and vulnerable. Please, don't wait. When your child comes and reports to you of a bullying, you go immediately and take an action. Thank you. Any other questions after we finish?
We will have the service meeting here.
Yes.
Thanks, Dr. Yossry, and thanks for you all. We're going to flip now to the service meeting. We're going to have it here in the church. Anybody that would like to join us for the service meeting, you're more than welcome. And we just have a break of a few minutes till all the servants come from their service, and we'll start in a few minutes.